Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor. I want to start it off with this tweet from C3 Nick. They have put up a full video from the Paris FinTech Forum with Brad Garlinghouse and the CEO of Swift. We saw I think shorter versions before, but now they've got the entire clip up here. And it's he says here, moderator, I have to get you a clear answer here. Is there a current agreement or partnership in the works between your companies? Swift CEO, no, not that I know of. Ripple CEO, no, not that I know of. I thought the way that was worded was very strange for a couple of CEOs. Of course, a CEO knows. Now, yes, they could have just been saying this in jest and kind of joking around, but that's not the answer. If I was the CEO of a company, even joking, that's not one of those things that I would be joking around about on stage. I would say, no, we don't. We're not working together. I would say it point blank, unless I wanted people to believe that we might be working on something. I don't know. I'm really kind of baffled by the way that they answered that in this. I did want to draw your attention to one other thing that was said at the very end. If you listen all the way to the very end, the CEO of Swift is stepping down, and he's talking about, in fact, his words were, he must be listening to the Digital Asset Investor. His words were, when he leaves Swift, he's just going to chill out for a while, and so he must be listening. But then at the very end, Brad Garlinghouse said, Ripple is hiring. He looks at him and says, Ripple is hiring. And so I thought that was kind of funny. Don't be surprised if you see him pop up at Ripple. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Okay, moving on. This is huge right here, folks. This is from XRP Crypto Wolf. Huge right here. Wyoming passed a bill that they're not talking about a bill. They passed a bill that allows for cryptocurrencies to be recognized as money. The bill authorizes banks to provide custodial services for digital assets. The bill will go into effect on March 1st. XRP can be classified and used along with banks holding it. And then he goes on to say, the bill will place crypto assets into 3 categories: digital consumer assets, digital securities, and virtual currencies. Digital assets that fall into those 3 categories will be defined as intangible personal property, granting virtual currencies the same treatment as fiat money. So, folks, we've been seeing it. I've been telling you that the dominoes were going to fall. I talked last week about a bank in Switzerland that was going to start custodying digital assets alongside of fiat. Well, once those dominoes begin to fall, I told you all the dominoes are going to begin to fall. Once these banks in Wyoming begin custodying digital assets like XRP or Bitcoin right beside US dollars, what do you think their competitors in that state are going to do? And then what do you think their ultimate competitors, or which are the other states and their banks, are going to do? This genie's out of the bottle, folks, and it ain't going back in. Simple as that. Nobody's putting this genie back in the bottle. And the reason I've told you for a long time, the reason it can't be put back in the bottle is because there is you would have to have a complete agreement and coordination with countries across the globe, and that'll never happen. And that is the genius of the design of these decentralized digital assets, period. And it is happening, folks. I can't be more excited than seeing something like this. This is not just a bill that's being talked about. This is going into effect on March 1st, and it's already been passed. Huge. Next, Sergeant Obi-Wan. This is huge too. The Interior Secretary quits at the White House for blockchain. Writing is on the wall again. Smart people see where the money is going. It's not too late to get on board. and he makes a great point. I'm not going to go into that article, but it's good enough for you to know that a guy left the White House. The Interior Secretary has left the White House to go get into blockchain. He's left the most powerful address on the planet because he thinks it would be a better opportunity to go work in the blockchain industry. So you tell me. Okay, and next, this is also from Sergeant Obi-Wan. He says, what do they say about fear, panic, and doubt? Digital Asset Investor has been saying this stuff in this article for months. I want to read to you the first part of this article because I'm telling you, the digital asset investor is here for about 3 or 4 reasons. My experience as a financial advisor, the fact that I went through the .com bubble, boom and bubble, the fact that I went through the financial crisis, and if I had to say a fourth, it would be just my gut. Putting all of my experience and common sense and everything all together, I have thought from the time I saw this, from the time I discovered digital assets, everything inside of me believed that this was going to change the world, and that if I was right, it's going to change my world. And those of us that have been here in this year and endured this bear market, we're so far ahead of the pack, it's not even funny. And we're all going to experience a change for the better. Here's the first part of this article that I want you to read, and tell me if this sounds familiar to you. It says, and this is from AMB Crypto. I want to give them credit because they did a really good job. I'm just going to read the intro part of this article. It is important to talk about where we are right now. You can probably feel it yourself, the depression stage of the cycle, categorized by fear, doubt, and reluctance to invest capital and general panic. Do you know how far Amazon stock dropped in the tech bubble from January 2000 to September 2001, 20 months later? It dropped 95%. Sound familiar? During this time, nobody wanted to touch it. The market could only think of negative reasons why the price would go down forever. Investors were pessimistic, and nobody had the courage to act. Some companies died forever, but what came next was the rebirth of something 100 times bigger. It went from a tech bubble to the tech revolution, and you won't be here at some... Let me read that again. And you wouldn't be here if at some stage you didn't believe in the blockchain revolution. Now, we don't know which companies will be the next blockchain Amazons, but we are looking for them every day, and we will find them. And I believe XRP represents the next Amazon, but bigger. Okay, that last line was me talking. So this was their article. The $700 billion death of cryptocurrency is just the beginning. You'll see many deaths. We're going to go through many cycles like this, in my opinion. Next, from CoinDesk, I'm going to finish this as you go into your weekend because I'm going to keep pounding this. I want to keep harping on this. This is big. It's unbelievable. So just so you know, this Canadian crypto exchange called Quadriga CX, the founder died a few months back. And when the founder died, that's where all these problems came from. Listen to this. This is from CoinDesk. Just in, troubled Canadian crypto exchange Quadriga CX owes its customers $190 million and cannot access most of the funds, according to a court filing obtained by CoinDesk's whatever. And then they say number 2, their late founder held sole responsibility for handling the funds and coins, and the remaining team members have had no luck accessing the exchange's cold wallet since. His widow wrote in a court filing, after the founder's death, Quadriga's inventory of crypto has become unavailable, and some of it may be lost, his widow told the court. She has his laptop, and it's encrypted, and she does not have its password or recovery key. That is unbelievable, folks. This is an exchange that is sitting there with $190 million worth of digital assets that can't be touched. because they've lost the keys. Well, there's a couple of points to make there. The first is obvious. What I keep telling you is if you haven't gotten a Ledger Nano X or a Ledger Nano S, go in the link in the description of all my videos and get one now. It's the safest way to store your digital assets off of these exchanges. You don't want to leave your private keys with these people. But there's another point that I want to make when I read this that I'm thinking. Let's take Bitcoin just as an example. And I've said this before, but this is a great illustration of what is really going on. And how huge all this is. Okay, when Bitcoin was created, there's only going to be 21 million of them. It has been estimated that since the creation, that approximately 5 to 6 million of those Bitcoins have been lost forever because people have lost the private keys. I know people who say they used to have Bitcoin when it first came out. They had some on a laptop that was given to them, and now they don't know how to get on the laptop. Can't get to them. So the question is, here's another 190 million of digital assets that has been lost. So not just Bitcoin, but all digital assets. Think about what happens to the value of your investment if and when they ever are able to calculate the actual figures on what's been lost with the loss of private keys that will never be found again. Because then those digital assets, let's say 100 billion XRP, and you own X amount, what happens to what your XRP is worth when you find out that there was 100 billion and there will never be more, and all of a sudden it's found that, let's say, 10 billion is lost forever because someone lost the private keys? What does that do for your investment? Because my prediction is that into the future, we're going to be holding these digital assets, and somehow, some way, somebody's going to be able to put a calculation to that and actually prove how many are lost forever in some form or fashion. And when that can be done, talk about scarcity. And what I compare it to is when I was a kid, and I used to, back in the 90s, I would collect baseball cards. And the baseball card, you know, back when people were trading cards when Babe Ruth was around, if you have like a Babe Ruth rookie card, that's worth a ton of money because they didn't make a lot of baseball cards back then. And most of the baseball cards have been lost or are undiscovered in some old lady's attic or something. Well, in the 90s, the baseball card thing was very popular, and it caught on like wildfire, and all sorts of different brands of baseball cards started coming out. And then, so I collected a lot of baseball cards. I still have a lot of them. Well, that baseball card market collapsed because in the 90s, they started printing too much of it. And that card market collapsed. And so those cards that I bought in the 90s are not worth anything now for that reason. Another 100 years passes and maybe they will be worth anything because all of them will have been lost. But that scarcity is everything. And this is the one thing that is not talked about much with all of these digital assets. And maybe it's not because there is no way to know how many have been lost forever. But what if there was a way? What if there is a way down the road and we actually find out how many there are that are actually in circulation? Or what if, say, 10, 20 years passes and there's never been any Bitcoin that moves that other than a certain amount? I don't know how they'll figure it out, but anything's possible. But the point is that whether you own Bitcoin or XRP or whatever, there's a finite amount, and that amount is not going up. It can go down through lost keys. It could go down. Some of these digital assets are burned, but it can't go up. That's the genius of all of this, folks. But you have to be invested in a winner. And so the ones I talk about on this channel are the ones that I believe will be the ultimate winners. And even though Bitcoin's proof of work, I say it, I'm like Brad Garlinghouse. I'm long Bitcoin because I think it's going to benefit just from being the first one and the name recognition, not the tech. If somebody was smart, they would eventually just swap Bitcoin out, doing a one-for-one swap. I don't even know how they would organize that. But a one-for-one swap with an actual real technology, but maybe they don't even need a real technology. Maybe they just want it to be what it is. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe and hit the like button and tell your friends and family that $190 million has been lost in digital assets on the Quadriga CX platform because the owner died, the founder died and lost and did not leave anyone else the private keys. Insanity. Thank you for listening.